Yo, yo, yo.
Hello.
Oh,
This is the start of my video.
Wales, mate. When you came here on
It was sunny last time.
why I'm quitting triathlon.
This is horrendous.
I got it, I had that
Tractor. Done for the day?
one. Nah, 6k swim later.
No, you haven't. Can we go get a coffee?
Coffee, food, sleep.
No more rain. Getting the merch.
So IRONMAN Wales 2022. Pre-race, I wasn't shy in the sort of year leading up to the race that this was the race I wanted to try and win, or at least be fighting for the sort of pointy end of the age group race. I think half the people I said that to thought I was mad, and the other half thought maybe he could, maybe he couldn't, but fair play for trying. Going into the race, I was flying in training. Between Roth and Wales, I've never put a 6-week block together like it. All the numbers were good. I don't think I missed any numbers in training, a session. Everything went so well, which is kind of lovely at the time, but also as the taper kicks in, you think I literally have zero excuses. Getting to Tenby on the Wednesday of race week was good. I wanted to adjust to the time zone differences and travel to a different country. But also the weather and the climate, etc. It pissed down with rain and was horrible weather for the sort of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, which was fine. It was warm. If it was like that on race day, that's what it's like on race day. I was able to get sort of my normal sort of 3-4 day lead into an Ironman race sessions done. In particular, kind of short brick session on the Thursday, which the weather was horrific, but it was really fun at the same time. And I was able to do a large chunk of the course by doing a sort of out, like a point-to-point brick session rather than a loop. The race day itself kind of flew round. In that time, I had all my family and friends. I'd kind of corralled a fair amount of people to come and watch me. And sort of the pre-race 48 hours was fantastic. It took my mind off it. I didn't really feel like I was thinking about the race a lot or worrying about it, etc. Race morning was brilliant. I didn't have any snags. The only thing I'd forgot was I I wanted to use a different watch because the current watch I'm using struggles with GPS. So my poor mum had to run down to the swim start last minute to give me my older Garmin. But aside from that, it was easy. Filled my bottles up, got my bike ready, pumped the tyres up, made my way to the swim start. I had plenty of time down on the beach, was chatting and sort of discussing how the day might play out with the guys and girls that I knew would be at the front end of the race. And before you know it, sort of AC/DC song comes on, the gun goes, and that was it. We were off. So the swim was good. I hadn't appreciated how choppy it was. Coming down the zigzags, I thought it's a fair bit of chop there, that'll be all right. But actually, as ever, when you're in the water, you realise that the waves are actually a bit bigger and sighting's very difficult, etc. As ever, I'm the lunatic that wants to get in the water first at any race. Not that I'm the uber swimmer, but I believe if you want to win a race or be at the front end, you need to cross the timing mat as soon as possible so that you know your position on the road and the boys around you sort of thing. You can actually race them rather than starting further back. Got into the water, went mad for about 100 metres. Realised that going mad, you weren't going very far, or didn't feel like you were going very far, and you were sort of fighting the surf. That first sort of 500-600 metres out to the first buoy was pretty hectic. I think, albeit after the panic of getting my good Garmin, the file never loaded, so I can't see the GPS line, but I do think I held the buoys quite well and actually swam the sort of correct distance. There was a lot of people that were getting sort of sucked off to the left hand side near the rocks, and I could see when we rounded that first buoy that I sort of overtook a fair chunk of people who were like fighting back to that buoy. The top of the triangle and into the beach wasn't as bad as that first bit, which was great. It's good mentally for that, so you could know you just had to survive that bit and then sort of float, or you could actually do some swimming on the other two sides of the course. Got out of the water for the lap, had a brief glance at my watch and was pleasantly surprised to see somewhere 27-28 minutes. I thought it was a lot slower. So the goal of sort of swimming sub 60 minutes, possibly closer to 55, was still on. Rounded the Aussie exit, managed to run it. Didn't take my goggles off. That's a mistake I'd made previously where I took them off and then you put them back on and they steam up. In the second lap, you're can't see where you're going.
Top tip.
Top tip. Yeah, the second lap was fine. The boys had moved. I know there's been lots of chat about people skipping boys or whatever in the pro and age group field, but generally when I rounded the first buoy, the other buoy was not where it was the first time round. Stuck to the usual plan where you swim towards the old lifeboat hut with the red roof, round that one, and then head for Goscar Rock to finish the lap. Don't want to get confused with gaps in houses because you'll never get the right one. Got out of the water, saw that it was a high 57. I was over the moon, to be honest. It's a swim PB by about 30 seconds over the Ironman distance in challenging conditions. After, on reflection, you can see that a lot of people did actually swim quite quickly that day, and so maybe it wasn't the best swim sort of thing, but at the time, all you can do is what you can do. Then T1, as everyone knows in Wales, is an interesting T1. Luckily, we're having a relatively low bib number. I could put my shoes on almost at the bottom of the zigzags, so I took my wetsuit right off. The Hoob wetsuit comes off. It's one of the only advantages of that wetsuit. So really, it just flies off you. Chucked it in my bag. I had Jane Eccleston shouting at me that she thinks about 10-15 people are ahead of me at that time. And I set off. I did plan to, you know, for me, T1 is part of the race, so the faster you can do it, the better. I did put my old Vaporflies on. I think a lot of people that were racing wore the carbon shoes for that 1K, so I don't blame them. But I came away with a T1 time that was exactly the same as Joe Skipper's. I think only 2 pros went a couple of seconds quicker, and I seem to have put a minute or 2 onto everyone in the age group field. I knew I'd obviously overtaken a lot of people on that run, a good sort of, it felt like hundreds of people, but it wasn't, and I knew I was sort of running quickly, but I felt great, and I remember telling myself, I hope my run legs feel like this when I come the other way in about 6 hours time. So yeah, got into T1. The bit from the tent to your bike always annoys me at Wales, because if your shoes are on your bike, you're doing it barefoot or potentially in a pair of socks, but the car park is a nightmare to run across, and you don't want to cut your feet or sort of hinder yourself there, so it sort of slows down that jog there. Got my helmet and bib number on while I'm running to my bike. A lot of people seem to be sat down in the tent doing that stuff, which always blows my mind.
Top tip.
And yeah, got on the bike, was excited about getting on the bike, and couldn't wait to sort of chase the sort of few people that were left up the road. So onto the bike. Normally this is a strength of mine, so I wanted that to play out on race day. I'd spent a fair bit of time and effort refining my setup pre-Wales, a few kit changes between ROFs, some different tyres, spoke to an expert on that sort of stuff, a sort of aero consultant if you like, who helped me.
Or is he remaining nameless?
Well, his name's Liam Maybank from Aero Revolution, if you really want to know. Yeah, got onto the bike. I knew from experience, from looking at the weather conditions, from riding this course several times, the first 25 miles, as with most Ironman, should be very easy. This one in particular, we had a pretty big tailwind or cross tailwind, and I remember just touching the pedals. The few inclines, I sort of rode my power plan, if you like, but any time I was over 40k an hour sort of thing, I literally just backed off. I was pushing like 200 watts and just lapping it up, getting my food and drink in, eating my fizzy cola bottles, knowing that the time is to be made up way later in the bike.
You alright?
Yeah.
You're absolutely flying. 7th overall.
I haven't started riding yet.
I know, go on.
I actually caught quite a few people. Managed to catch Hannah Monday pre-Pembroke, which was good because I thought she might put quite a big swim gap into me. Gave her a big cheer. Went past 4 or 5 other guys that were all on their own. And this was encouraging, obviously. I knew I was making time up, but I also wasn't really riding like hard at that point. Coming into Pembroke, I'd upped my power for the last sort of 20-30 minutes. When we went into the headwind, was back to sort of normal Ironman power around 240, 250. And I'd caught a few more boys. I'd seen on the out and back then that Tom Rigby was coming up on me. This was exciting. Generally my plan, and my coach said, ride with Tom Rigby when he catches you. If he catches you, he might have swam quicker than me. So when Tom came past, I jumped on and rode with him for about 5 minutes and thought, this is brilliant. This is going to be the next 3 hours or so, and we'll come into T2 together. I haven't spoke to Tom directly, but I think his plan might have been different, because as soon as we hit the first climb, just before Karoo, I was doing sort of 320 watts and Tom was pulling away from me quite easily. Clearly he's on another day. I'll leave him go. Possibly regret that decision on reflection, because Tom didn't really at that point, I think he maybe was about 90 seconds to 2 minutes ahead of me for the majority of the ride. So we were sort of matching each other's pace there would have been over 100k left. So maybe if I'd have gone up that climb, we might have kept trying to take chunks out of each other, but maybe if I'd gone up that climb with him, we would have rode together and actually helped each other potentially close the gap to the front a bit more. The rest of the bike was fairly uneventful. After that, I didn't really overtake many other people, mainly because I didn't know at the time, but I'd kind of worked it out. I was in the top 3-4 on the road, so there wasn't really anyone else to overtake. And Ollie Simon and Ben Goodfellow were miles ahead due to their sort of swimming ability, so I was never going to gain time on them massively. And yeah, I sort of rode conservatively for a lot of it. I pushed sort of 280, 300 up the climbs, pushed lower sort of 210, 220 on the flatter bits, and obviously used the descents to recover and get fuel on, stay aero, etc. My advice, if you want to ride fast at IRONMAN Wales, you need to be able to ride fairly hard up the climbs and then get back into the rhythm of sort of low end Ironman power aerobic stuff on the bits that you can do. I think a lot of people push the climbs quite hard and then they're not able to settle back into that rhythm to maintain that momentum. So that was the plan. That's what we trained over the last 6 weeks. I did lots of sort of climbing efforts into Ironman power on the bike, and it seemed to have paid off. I think my bike split was the 4th fastest age grouper of the day, but Ben did ride faster but he didn't finish, so it technically doesn't count. But yeah, great to see my biking still up there after a good build in training.
And what would you say to the people that said that were wondering about a road bike or a TT bike?
I think if you want to race Wales, it's always a TT bike. I think if you're riding anything around 6 hours 30 or less, it's 100% a TT bike. It's 100% a disc wheel. It's 100% fast setup, aero helmet, the lot, especially if you're under 6 hours and closer to 5 hours 30. Into T2, I actually had a pretty rubbish T2. I think I lost a minute to Tom Rigby, which is a bit annoying because for me, if I'd have been 2 minutes down when we were running up the hill, I could see him. Instead, every time I saw him, he was coming down the hill, which mentally is a bit different to think you're chasing somebody. The run was okay. I definitely thought I'd run quicker. I definitely wanted to run quicker. I definitely didn't really stick to my run plan, which was not go hard on lap 1, but I didn't get my heart rate to where I wanted it to be, where it's been in training, what I know is sustainable for 3 or so hours. So a little disappointed in myself for that. That I was running sort of 10 seconds a kilometre slower for the first 2 laps on average than I thought I would be. So yeah, I was a little frustrated, but I was also felt pretty, in the same way I felt really good. So I knew if I could run that pace for the whole run, then I'd definitely be catching people. I'd definitely be holding my position later on in the race. At the end of lap 2, my stomach started to not agree with me. This is, touch wood, or it never has happened to me before. I think it was just the amount of salt water that I drank while swimming. But I was still putting fuel in. I had no issues with putting it in. I was almost forcing it in anyway. I know how important it is. But I definitely needed to go to the toilet.
Lovely.
By the end of lap 3, which I definitely, not blown up, but I was definitely struggling. The pace had dropped significantly. I committed to go into the toilet. I did make a joke to my family pre-race that I would be willing to go to the toilet at number 2 if I was less than 5k from the finish. But as I still had over a lap to do, I went to the toilet. Felt like a completely new man coming out the toilet. So probably wish I'd done that a bit sooner. It didn't take as long as I thought it would do. I knew where they were. I took my tri-suit down to my waist on the sort of 100 metres approach to it, jumped in the Portaloo, and then came out of it and got dressed again. On lap 4, as I said, I felt better. I still knew I was where I wanted to be within the race. Obviously wasn't necessarily challenging for the win or anything at this point, and I don't think there was people in my age group that sort of were going to run me down. I was aware one person had gone past me. His name's Sam Wyatt Haynes. I've trained with him a little bit. He lives down in Devon near my mum. Lovely chap. But that helped me because the sort of stubborn side of me was like, no, I'm not letting him beat me. He slowed massively on the 4th lap going up the hill. And I didn't actually have to try and overtake him. It sort of happened. I turned at the Red Bull kind of turning point on the lap, and I'd had a message or people had shouted that Ollie Simon had also started to struggle or was struggling. So I kind of went for it. I banged in all the food I had left on me. I think I had 2 gels on me, and I just went, I say nuts. I was sort of running 4:20, 4:25 pace for the last 5K. There was another guy from Triforce, the guys who coached me, who was on an earlier lap. He ran with me for a bit, so that helped in terms of kept me moving. I overtook Ollie Simon. I thought at that point I was 3rd overall, so I really was like flying high and thought, wow, that I've managed to salvage a podium overall. Really went hard all the way home. Obviously there's an out and back in town and a few loops, so I knew that I wasn't going to be involved in some sprint finish or these, I had a few minutes by that point on Sam and others, and really enjoyed it.
You just gotta keep doing what you're doing, Ross. Just keep doing what you're doing.
I ran a 3:20. I definitely think I was sort of in 3:5, 3:10 shape for Wales, so a bit disappointing. But ultimately I finished where I wanted to finish. So coming down that finish chute was really emotional. There were a few tears, although there wasn't much liquid in my body to cry at, but there definitely was the scrunched up face. And yeah, the finish line was amazing. I've dreamt about that moment for years, particularly in the last year, and it was everything I kind of wanted. So I finished 4th overall, 2nd in my age group. It's the first time I've podiumed at a full Ironman event, and I've got a trophy. That was like a sub goal in terms of, at least come away with an age group podium. I wanted that on my shelf to look at and kind of have. And then the next day at the ceremony, I did take my Kona slot. I did genuinely, and people don't believe me, I do see myself retiring from full Ironmans. I definitely don't want to do another one, but the only one I would ever consider doing again is Kona. To qualify automatically, or have one of the 4 slots that my age group had, meant it was a no-brainer for me. I'm in a fortunate position that, not that money's not an object, but I can afford to go and all those sort of things, so you won't hear me moaning about the cost of it. But I want to go. I want to beat what I did in 2019 there. I always have unfinished business. I don't think I'm going to go and win it or whatever, but I definitely want to go there, have a better race, enjoy it, and bring on 2023.